On Christmas Day 1996, 32-year-old Patty Vaughn left her home in La Vernia, Texas and never came back. Her car was found 15 miles from her house, but her body was never discovered. The only thing that she left behind were bloodstains all around her house and 3 children, all who were playing in their house at the time and didn't notice she was gone until hours later. In 2001, the Merlin family was attending a small Christmas party in Denver. A Santa Claus was hired anonymously to come in and hand out presents to the children at the party. It was seen by many attending the party that the Santa Claus whispered something into one of the Merlin's sons' ears when he was sitting on his lap. A few minutes after the Santa said his goodbyes and left the party, the young Merlin boy left the firehouse that was hosting the party as well, only to never be seen or heard from again. The anonymous Santa also disappeared without a trace. Tracy Mertens moved from Birmingham to Rochdale with her boyfriend Joey Cavagna and their 2 young children. On December 23rd, she went back to her old flat to fetch some things when 2 men came inside the flat and abducted her. The men took her to the town of Eaton, placed her on the steps in front of a church, and burned her alive. She managed to stay alive long enough to tell the story and kept repeating what the men were asking her, "Where is Joey?" before they set her on fire. Joey debunked ever having known anyone who would have done this to his family. 19-year-old Rhonda Hinton was murdered on December 22, 1981 after attending a company Christmas party. She died from someone firing a bullet that traveled through the trunk and driver's seat and then into her heart. What was never explained about Rhonda's murder was a mystery man who witnesses had spotted standing next to her car around the time of her death. Rhonda's parents also told the police she was acting strange just days before the murder occurred. During the 1960s and 70s, the city Warminster in England was known as a place where UFO sightings kept happening. However, the sightings were not initially flying objects, rather unexplained sounds. The most curious case was of Marjorie Bye, who was on her way home from a Christmas church service when she was knocked to the ground and paralyzed by the strange vibrating noises. She described the experience as being pinned down by the invisible fingers of sound. She never recovered. Jared Betterson and Susan Klingel lived in Dearborn, Michigan with their daughter Nicole. Soon after Nicole turned 2, they were in a car accident and Nicole's mother Susan passed away. Jared then remarried to a woman named Barbara with whom he decided to move, but never saying where to exactly to his family or his late wife's family. Ever since that move, Nicole was never seen again, and Jared and Barbara were only found after they both committed suicide 20 years later. The only thing left behind them was a note saying they were sorry for all they've done. In 2007, in a small town in Arkansas, there was an unknown man dressed as Santa Claus walking around town that left gifts on about 6 people's stoops. 5 of them were later revealed to be old useless toys and other junk, while Jamie Frester and her husband received a package containing a series of papers. Most of them consisted of nothing but old office papers dating back to the 80s and 90s, but there was one note that stood out due to its large writing. It said simply, "I'm sorry for whatever happens to your son." 2 years later, their 12-year-old son Chris was hit by a car while crossing the street on his bike and suffered fatal injuries. The car that hit him did not stop to help and was never identified. To this day, it was never learned who the mysterious Santa Claus was, or if that note was purely coincidental. 38-year-old Lockhart, Texas resident Latricia White was spending Christmas of 1994 with her boyfriend Lee Wackerhagen and his 9-year-old son Chance. Lee was supposed to drop off his son to his mother on Christmas Day, but decided to keep him for a few more days. A few days later, Lee's girlfriend Latricia was found dead in their apartment, and Lee and his son were never seen again. The police suspected Lee killed Latricia and ran, taking his son with him, but their suspicions were never confirmed, as Lee was never found. Everyone who celebrates Christmas knows the song A Visit from St. Nicholas, or better known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. However, the origin of this song has a fair amount of mystery links to it. For many years, no one knew who wrote it. A Visit from St. Nicholas was sent anonymously to the Sentinel, a newspaper in New York, and first published on December 23, 1823. It's still not established who wrote it, as several men came forward saying it was them, but literature experts were never really able to determine who was telling the truth. The original author was finally determined in 1837 when Clement Clark Moore claimed authorship.